Hello everybody. In this session, SMART presents effective communication. Communication, as we already know, is a two-way procedure. A sender and a receiver. A sender gives information and a receiver receives it. Then what is it about effective communication that's so important today? Effective communication differs in just one aspect. Effective communication is all about sending the right information to the right person, which means it goes in correctly to whoever has to receive this information. That is the difference between basic communication and effective communication. Now, let's see. As I said, basic communication is only sending, that is, someone is sending it, and somebody else receives it. And as again, we come back to what is effective communication, there is a sender and there is a receiver. Again, the only difference, as I said, it's the right information or the right message rather transferred to the right person. There are two ways of effectively communicating, or rather I should say two things that one should keep in mind when you're communicating effectively. Number one, keep in mind the psychology of the person you're communicating with, because it totally depends on that person how they perceive what you're going to communicate. Number two, keep in mind what exactly is the situation while you're communicating, or what are the circumstances that may affect or be a boon for your communication. As we know, effective communication can always bring out desired and intended results. That is why it is so much sought for. And we all need to move our communication from just being a normal communication to being an effective communication. When I vouch so much for effective communication, of course, I must let you know what are the uses of having an effective communication. Let's look into what is most important during effectively communicating with someone. When we effectively communicate with people, there are many uses. To start with, number one, the best use would be you can understand a situation better. As I said, that we have to keep in mind what situation we are in or what kind of circumstances we fall in when we communicate to make our communication effective, which means automatically it gets interrelated with point number one, which is we would understand the situation and the circumstance better. When we understand a situation and circumstance better, it would lead to number two, which would be then you would understand the person better. For example, if I'm going to stand in front of a public audience and I'm going to give a speech, I understand that my audience is expecting certain kind of information from me. I understand the situation that there is a huge crowd waiting for me to talk to them, which means that has to be kept in mind. I understood the situation, I understood the people, that is the audience, and then I communicate, which makes my communication more effective. Let's move on to the third section. What does this section denote? Of course, it denotes one basic thing. Once you understand people and you understand situations, it's always easy to solve problems. And in the first place, you wouldn't get into problems if you had an effective communication. Conflicts. Conflicts are a large number nowadays. We get into conflicts on a day-to-day basis, be it with our teachers, our friends, our spouse, or our children. So imagine if we can understand the situation, if we can understand the person we are speaking with, automatically we can understand how well they would interpret what we are going to speak. Accordingly, we can come up with points on how we can effectively communicate what we are having in our mind, which in turn will help us to solve or rather create no consequences or no conflicts and easily communicate what has to be communicated. Let's see how we can make our communication effective. I call it the 7 C's rule. Of course, yes, the 7 C's rule. What are these 7 C's? Let's start off with the first one, completeness. Completeness, what is completeness and how does it affect our communication? Let's see, I asked my friend to join me for a movie tonight at the theater, which means I've given him information that I'm going for a movie, I'll be at the theater and it's tonight. Now, when my friend reaches there, do you think he'd be immediately able to find where I am? No, because the information was not complete. He'll be confused whether to look for me in the screens which play English movies, Tamil movies, or Hindi. This is a very simple situation in life. Even for such a situation, when we fail to give clear or information that's incomplete, which means that we are not giving complete information. At the end of it, complete information is something that affects effective communication. Number 2, concise information. What is concise and how is it different from complete? Concise means not repeating something again. I'm explaining something to you. If you can understand with the first go, which means my information or communication was effective and concise. If I have to explain the same situation again and again in different ways, which means the way I'm explaining is not effective enough. Let's move on to the third C, which would be consideration. As we already discussed, we need to consider situations that we are in and the psychology of the person or the audience we're going to speak with. That's how consideration plays a very important role. Moving on, correctness. How correct is the information that you're sharing? Is it correct enough for you to make it clear to the person whether they will get this information in the right sense? Next, moving on, clarity. Now, what is the difference between clarity and correctness? Let's see. Both are C's, but of course there is a difference. How? First of all, in clarity, you need to be clear in your mind what you're going to deliver. As in sense, you need to be clear with your thought process. There starts clarity. Only when you're clear about what you want to give ahead as information can you be clear about how you want to give it. Which means clarity plays a very vital role. And automatically it coincides or connects with correctness, concreteness, and so on, concise information as well. And finally, if we look at it, we have one last section which says that the last C, which is very important, is courtesy. Why courtesy, you would ask me? If I greet someone when I reach, automatically I connect to the people. If I do not connect to these people, how do I give them the information that I intend to? When I'm courteous to them, that doesn't mean I am biased to them. It very clearly means that I want their attention in a very humble manner and I want to deliver what I wish to say. In today's rapidly changing world, effective communication is something that we need to look at on a serious note. Why is that? Because even if you have a very brilliant or invaluable idea, it is worthless unless you share this idea. How can you share this idea? Only if you communicate it to someone or to an audience or to a written formation. But how can this happen? This can happen only if you can effectively communicate your idea. When the idea is effectively communicated, only then it can become a revolution. That's why effective communication is so very necessary and important. In today's inevitable series of conflicts that come up when you communicate something, only effective communication can save you time and energy and bring out the best in you when you communicate. Hence, effective communication plays a very major and important role in your development. You have to communicate, not only communicate, but effectively communicate what you feel and what you want. Have a great learning.